I know that with the resurgence and COVID being what it is, it's affecting us again to some extent. We hate to see that, of course, but we're glad for the numbers that we have this morning, in spite of the sicknesses and such as that out there. Hope you're all doing well. Appreciate the involvement today of people like Sam and Chris, Thomas, reading the scripture that we'll be following in Luke 14 in a little bit, serve as our text, and it's my honor and pleasure to be working alongside these great men this morning. I've often thought that, along with being a Christian, and we wear the name Christian with /nothing, we're just Christians. And in keeping with that, we're members of the Lord's body. We're members of His church. But we're also disciples. And over the years, I've never emphasized the idea of being a disciple of Jesus. And I don't know any reason why should not have or should not, because this morning we're going to look at a very familiar passage, Luke 14, where Jesus will lay it out, what it means to be a disciple. And I want to draw your attention to it, my attention to it. And I want us to think about what's involved in this. Along with Luke 14, I want to also involve the Great Commission, Matthew 28, 18 through 20. And so we'll kind of set that over here to the side for just a moment. The Great Commission passage. All of my preaching life, I guess, I have been taught and I have taught that the Great Commission involves 4 commandments. Go, teach, baptize, teach. Now, what follows in my comments this morning will not be deep or scholarly, and I don't know that it'll rattle your world in one way or another. But I hope it will help us to think a little bit about something Jesus said in the Great Commission. After He informed His 11 disciples, all power, that is, authority, has been given to me in heaven and on earth, Jesus said, go. Go therefore and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit, teaching them to observe all things whatsoever I've commanded you. And lo, I'm with you always, even to the end of the world. I want you to take another look at what Jesus just said. He said, go. Said this to His 11 disciples. Go. Now, the go there is not an imperative. In other words, it's not saying you've got to get out there and head out. It's not an imperative. It might also be rendered this way. As you go, or wherever you may go. So the idea of going is something we can all do. I've heard people say, with regard to taking mission trips, whether it be to Mexico or Costa Rica or anywhere else. Sometimes we'll say, well, I can't go, but I can help send. I don't find that in the New Testament, because Jesus didn't make any particular qualification. He said go. And go not being an imperative means that wherever you go, you have an obligation to carry out. Now, whether you're going from the house to Walmart or to the beauty shop or to the barber shop or to the hospital, you go. So as you go, well, that touches all of us. The second thing Jesus said, therefore, make disciples. Well, how do you make a disciple? That's where the word teach comes in, because I've never known any way to make a disciple of anybody short of teaching them. And we oftentimes will say, and I've been taught and I have taught, that a disciple is a learner. Well, that's true. A disciple is a learner. And you don't ever quit learning. You're always learning. However old you get, you're always learning. But a disciple is not just a learner. That's the truth, but it's not the whole truth. Because I can learn from a lot of people. That doesn't mean I'm a disciple of them. In my readings over the years, I've learned a little bit from Josephus, Plato, Aristotle, Confucius. I'm not disciples of these people, but I can learn from them. So there's more to learning or to being a disciple than just learning. But discipleship to Jesus is learning of Him and learning Him. So along with making disciples, Jesus said baptizing them in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. Baptizing is not just grabbing somebody by the collar, taking them to the baptistry. It's a person who's been taught. Somebody who's learned about Jesus. And quite naturally, they'll want to be immersed in the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. That should follow, because baptism is a consequence of being discipled, you see. We don't force it on anybody. So in our years, over the years, we hear, well, you people put too much emphasis on baptism. Baptism just Church of Christ doctrine, and so forth and so on. Well, Jesus said, you disciple people, you baptize them. So there are no disciples that are not baptized into Jesus. And then, the fourth part of this, teach. Teaching them to observe all things whatsoever I've commanded you. And I'm with you to the end of the age. So there is a continual teaching that goes along with being a disciple. So what does it mean to be a disciple of Jesus? I put all of this together, and I'm impressed with the fact that being a disciple, a follower of Jesus, is more than wanting to follow Him. I appreciate anybody that wants to do that, but it's more than wanting to do that. It's more than seeking out the church of your choice. It's more than attending when and if you feel like it. It's more than taking communion if you feel good enough to take it. And it's more than occupying a pew. Being a disciple of Jesus is one who has learned of Jesus and continues to learn what He has taught. I want us to think this morning about what it means to be a disciple of Jesus. And I titled this lesson, not discipleship, but disciple shift. Because it might require just a little shift in our thinking. I don't know. I'd like to think that it might. Years ago, my dentist was Wes Hamilton. His mom and dad worshiped here, attended here, till they died. And Wes and Mary Ann attended here many, many years ago. Wes was not only my dentist, but he was a little bit of a chairside philosopher and comedian. Quite unlike my current dentist. Ha ha. And one day I was in Wes' dentist office and he asked me, "Do you know what a paradigm shift is?" And paradigm shift was the last thing on my mind. I did not come in there with a ready definition of a paradigm shift. And I said, well, yeah, I think I know what it is. So he said, let me show you what a paradigm shift is. And he had in one hand 2 dimes. And he went like this. That's a paradigm shift. I thank you so much. I needed that. So I hope that disciple shift this morning is a little more involved than that. Anyway, I just remember Wes doing that. That made an impression on me. That's the only thing I remembered that he ever said. What does it mean to be a disciple of Jesus? Well, let's go to Luke 14. And here's the shift comes from Jesus. Because he'll throw some things at us here to show us that being a disciple of His is more than wanting to do certain things, having good intentions, or whatever might be involved. Here's what it boils down to. Number 1, in verse 26, if you want to be a disciple of Jesus, you've got to commit to something. And it's not just something. It's someone. Look at 26 again. Thomas has already read it, but let's go back over it. If anyone comes to me and does not hate his father and mother and wife and children and brothers and sisters, yes, and his own life also, he cannot be my disciple. That strikes us as being very hard, doesn't it? I mean, I've never met anybody who says they hate their family. I wouldn't say that. So the word hate comes across as very hard to me. But my mind settles down just a little bit when I understand that hate simply means you have to put something ahead of, more important than, your family. Because to most of us, blood is thicker than water. And there's nothing that is tighter than family ties. But in this case, you've got to commit to something. And it goes outside of your family. You commit to someone. And that commitment takes you to Christ. If anyone comes to me. And so the commitment is to anyone who might come to Jesus. Then you've got to make a commitment that gets very personal and gets very real, because it comes right down to perhaps even your family. And a little bit later on, he's going to talk about, exactly what that involves. Now, how real does that get for some of us? To hate your father and your mother, if you make a decision for the Lord and it goes against what your family wants or likes or will approve of, what does that mean to you? I've often wondered, how does this translate into real life today? Are any of us ever affected this way, to the point where, if you're going to be a disciple of Jesus, you have to go against your own people? Has that ever happened to you? Probably so. Well, let me just tell you this. I was taking Promise Echo. Picked her up at Ken's shop. She had her car there, took her home. And then I had to go, after her car was ready, pick her up and take her back to the shop. Well, I asked her about her dad. I happen to know her dad's a preacher. I asked her, well, how's your dad doing? So forth. And she's telling me. And she got to talking about her religious background. She said, I grew up in Assemblies of God. I said, no, I didn't know that. She said, oh, yeah, my dad was an Assembly of God preacher. My family, all of them, active in Assemblies of God. I didn't know that. And she said her dad learned the gospel through World Bible School. And he was baptized. And it created an uproar in the family. I said, oh, I had no idea. She said it was so bad that it came right down to his wife, her mother, his wife, either leaving him over this or threatening to leave him over this. She came around and she came back to him and all that. But I thought, wow, that's real stuff. That's what this is talking about. I had no idea. And she explained how it all played out and how everything's okay now. But it sure wasn't back then. It created an incredible uproar when he obeyed the gospel. Well, that's what Jesus is talking about here. So you've got to commit to something that takes you outside family ties. Second, the Lord says in verse 27, and whoever does not bear his cross and come after me cannot be my disciple. So you've got to pick something up or bear something. That's the meaning of the word bear. You pick it up, you carry it, you bear it. All right. And that thing that you have to pick up and bear and carry happens to be the cross of Christ. So, what does that mean? Well, let's go back, just a few chapters here into Luke chapter 9. And you'll find the same thing. If you want to check Matthew 16:24, you'll find the same wording. But in Luke 9:23, Jesus said, if anyone desires to come after me, let him deny himself, take up his cross daily and follow me. In Matthew 16:24, he said, let him take up his cross. Right. So there's a cross of suffering that has to be taken up. And if we're not willing to do that, then we're not willing to become a disciple of his. And I would suggest that Promise Echo's dad understood what that meant when he made the decision that he did. I just find that very interesting. So in order to be a disciple, you've got to pick something up. Your cross. And you pick it up on a daily basis. So that suggests to me that salvation and forgiveness through Christ, even though it's free, it can be very costly to you, if you get my drift. And then third, you've got to count something. And Jesus explains that here in verses 28 through 32 of counting the cost. You intend to do something. Build a tower. All right. You sit down and you pad, pencil, and you figure it all out. And you calculate the risks and the expense and all of that stuff. And you count the cost. All right. Then we do the same when we become disciples of our Lord. We anticipate, what this is going to demand of us. And discipleship then doesn't call for half-hearted attachment. And so many people are much more happy just to attend once in a while, show up occasionally, get their ticket punched, and there's no real commitment involved. So you count the cost involved. And for you, it may be heavy or it may be light, but there's a cost that you have to count. And if it involves negative reaction from people, maybe your family and so forth, that you have to endure, then you count that cost. And it doesn't knock you off track, but you count the cost and you go ahead. This is what's involved in being a disciple of Jesus. All right. And then in verse 33, another part of this disciple shift is you have to leave something. So in verse 33, so likewise whoever of you does not forsake all that he has cannot be my disciple. Well, the disciples of Jesus, thankfully, those 11 had to do that. They had to forsake everything. And because they did that, we're in position today to be disciples of Jesus ourselves. Now, you may have to leave some things in order to do so. You may have to leave former attachments. You may have to leave former alliances, connections, religious ties, whatever. But if it's left and left behind, then there are no regrets. Then you understand what it means to be a disciple of Jesus. All right. Am I a disciple of Jesus? Being a disciple of Jesus involves conforming my thinking and my attitudes and my heart. That's how deep this thing goes. It's not just a physical thing. Physical attachment is deeper than that. And everything that Jesus said here, He's getting into what it means to be a follower of Him. Now, if somebody were to come and spend some time with you, let's say a week, and I know the fish start stinking long before that, but they hang around with you for a while, and they shadow you everywhere you go, home, work, whatever it is. What would they think of you? What would their impressions be? Would you impress upon them in any sense what it means to be a disciple, sacrifice involved? The fact that as a disciple of Jesus, that, you have committed yourself to Him, that you have counted a serious cost, that you've made some changes, that they're not hanging around with just a half-committed person, that you are indeed a disciple. Would they see that in you? And if they wouldn't, then why not? So being a disciple is more than learning. It is that, but it translates into doing and to being. And it gets down to the heart of what it means to be a follower of Christ. So again, I come back to the Great Commission of our Lord. And as I read it, maybe I read it a little differently than I once did. All authority has been given to me in heaven and on earth. Go as you go. Therefore, make disciples, baptizing them in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit, continuing to teach them all things whatsoever I've commanded you. I'm with you always and to the end of the world. And because they did that, we're here today. It might be that you need to contemplate what it really means to be a disciple. It may be that you might figure out you really haven't done it. And today you do. You need to while we stand, while we sing, to encourage you.